Okay, Ivan, so here's the twin stem, and I'm going to show you how to set the parameters. This is the middle button's how you turn it on. Probably figured that out. And the M is for mode, S is for setting. There are only two modes. You've got TENS and you've got EMS. So see, whenever I press this, it just goes back and forth between the modes. TENS is trans-electrical nerve stimulation, and you see below it, if you press setting, the little B will be blinking, and you can press the up arrow and it'll move it between the four of those, B, N, M, and then that last M. Those are just different settings for trans-electrical nerve stimulation, which is for pain management. And that's one type of use of the twin stem. That's why it's called a twin stem. It's got two modes. The mode that you really want is the EMS, which is electrical muscle stimulation. And that's when you're going to actually do muscle re-education, where it actually contracts the muscle and it's not just a sensory kind of thing to mask pain. So the mode is EMS, and then S for setting. You see the S box is blinking. That means simultaneous. S is for, just means that channel 1 and channel 2 will be firing at the same time, which is likely what you want to do, like stimulating both your quads at the same time. The other, oops, sorry. Oh shoot, now I got to go all the way through. So you just keep pressing S till you get to the blinking S. Once the S is blinking, then you press the up or down arrow, but I usually just press this up arrow. And the next setting is alternating. So that means channel 1 will go on, and then it will go off, and then channel 2 will go on. And the only time I think you'd really do that is if for some reason you decide to have your hamstrings and your quads alternate, like one channel's hamstrings, one channel's quadriceps, and one goes on and then it rests and then the other goes on. But normally I think it would be a lot less confusing to do just simultaneous. The D, I actually don't know what that is. Oops, I got to cycle through again. That happens all the time. You got to wait for the A to blink. Once the A is blinking, that means you can adjust it. So it goes through. I don't really know what the D is. So you're really just going to be using the simultaneous or the alternating. So let's assume you're doing mode EMS and simultaneous. So we got that. Now when you press the S, and it'll start scrolling through, see the little time symbol, sorry, it's a little hard to see that, is blinking. That means you can change the minutes that it's on. 32 is pretty typical. If you want to increase it a little bit or decrease it a little bit, say you only have time to do 15 minutes, you can always, once that's blinking, you can go down. So you can go down to 15 if you want to. I'm using the down arrow, and you can do either channel. But if you're doing a typical session, I would say like 30 or 32. So then you're done with that one. So then you press the S again, and oops, sorry, got a little. You press the S again and see the PW is blinking. That means pulse width. And 300 is the highest. You can go down if you want to. I usually will recommend between 250 and 300. You can always play around with that if you want to see if it's a little bit too stingy. You can try to change the pulse width to see if that makes it more comfortable. But most people tolerate 300 pulse width well. And then, so then you press the S to move on to the next setting. PR is pulse rate, and that's 40. That, I don't know how high that goes up. I think it might go up to 60. I usually will recommend 35 to 45. So typical one, I'll just pick 40. So once you set those, oh yeah, there we go. And here's ramp that blinks. That says ramp 2 minutes. That ramp is just the time, or I'm sorry, 2 seconds. That's the time that it takes for the stem when it starts coming on to go to its full power. So it's nice to have a couple seconds so it's not like all of a sudden. But if it's coming on all of a sudden and it's uncomfortable, while that's blinking, you can see you can always go up on that time if you want. But 2, again, is a really typical time that's comfortable. Now this first one says is CON, contract, And then this one is REL, relax. Basically, this is on and off. This particular unit just says contract, relax. So when it's blinking, you can press the up arrow or down arrow and change that if you want to. So typically, I think a good place to start is 10 seconds on, which will really be 8 seconds because it had a ramp time of 2 seconds. So it takes 2 seconds to go to full, what we call tetany, where your muscle is contracted and it's full electrical power. And then it'll be on for 8 seconds and then it will go off. And then it will relax for 10. And again, sometimes I'll turn that down. Oopsies, sorry. To move it over, once it's blinking, you can change it. So on this one, I would just do 10 and 10 or 10 and 8, you know, whichever. So once you get the screen where it says 0 and 0, all the parameters are set. So what I'm thinking is once you get it set like that, what will happen is, say if I turn this off, you just press it and hold it and it'll go off. Once it goes off, then once you turn it on, it's already set. And you don't need to change any of it. So you already know that it's electrical muscle stim, EMS mode, simultaneous channels, 32 full minutes. It will go on a timer and then it will actually stop when it's done. And to look at the other ones, I happen to remember the ramp time was 2, the pulse width was 300, the pulse rate was 40, and the on time or the contract time was 10. And the relax time was, I believe I changed it to 8. So once you do that, you don't have to go in and change that every time. You just turn it on, and then when it's 0 and 0, you can actually, you know, start adding, that's called the amplitude. That's when you start feeling the stim, and then hopefully you can get to the point where you have a muscle contraction. And once you have a good solid muscle contraction, if you do, it's okay if it kind of flitters. If you can get it to a point where it's solid, that's called full tetany, that's ideal. But once you get that full contraction, it doesn't help to put any more electricity in it. It'll just fatigue your muscle. So you bring it up as high as you can that you can tolerate it and that your muscle is contracting. So, and these are just the 2 channels. Now, once you set it, like say this one, and this may change each time you do it, depending on the contact that your electrode has. But, you know, like say you notice that it's always at like 28 or something. I mean, it could be anywhere. I think it goes all the way up to 100. But, you know, some people feel it right away at 7, and then they feel like it's tolerable at 14. Or it might go all the way up to 30, and you're comfortable there. So it will change. And so once you set these both up, after, you know, several seconds, a little key icon will come on. And what that means is all these buttons are locked. So that is very helpful, actually, because if for some reason you accidentally leaned on this or your dog walked over it or whatever, it wouldn't accidentally push one of the buttons. So, but if you do need to change something and it's locked, the way to unlock it is you press a down arrow and then the little key will disappear, and then you can go back and change anything you need to. Like if you need to turn down the amplitude, or you want to change something like add some time to it or whatever. So, that's what you would do. And then it will turn off on its own after 32 minutes, I'm sorry. If you do want to turn it off and the key is on there, you got a down arrow and then press this and it'll go off. So, anyway, I hope that's helpful. Some other little key, little tips to help the electrodes to conduct better are if, it's good to kind of wipe down your skin if you can with a wet washcloth. To get any kind of natural oils or lotions or dirt or sweat or anything like that. You can wipe that off. And also if your electrodes aren't sticking very well, you can put some water on it, like just get like a cup of water or put your fingers under running water and then just rub your fingers on the electrode, not when they're on, obviously. And that will help them conduct also. And also if you have a lot of hair on your legs, sometimes people will either shave the little spots where the electrodes go or just trim them with some scissors, that will help tremendously too. So you can try that. I don't think it'll matter too much, but normally we put the black lead closer to your body and the red lead closer to your knee, or like closer to your foot actually. And when you do the front of your shin, the black one would be closer to your knee and the red one would be closer to your foot. So it's like the red lead will be the furthest one away from you. So I don't know if that makes sense, but okay. So see how this just turned off itself because I forgot to turn it off. It'll turn it off to save the battery. So, so anyway, I hope that's helpful.